welcome. We're excited to do another Field Engineering Live with everybody. Welcome to another exciting Jackson Systems training. So tonight what we're going to be doing is smart home devices. That's something that's definitely entering our marketplace at a rapid pace. I'm sure many of you guys have heard your homeowners asking about different smart home devices, whether it be cameras or Wi-Fi thermostats. There's all kinds of options. And I think it makes a really exciting opportunity for us within this industry. Something I've been saying for a long time is if the homeowner doesn't know how to install it themselves, somebody's going to. So it might as well be us. Just a quick run through on tonight. This is going to be an interactive training, so the more participation we get, the better things are going to go. You're going to notice on your main screen here that we've got a Q&A field like always, so please fire off those questions as we go. We're going to answer them as we go. And again, the more interactive that we can be, the more everybody's going to learn. So don't hesitate with any of those questions. We've actually got a few targeted surveys that we're going to be doing as well. So again, please participate in those. It's going to enrich the training for everybody. Obviously, here's your main content. You're going to see that we've got an external resource list as well. So outside of this training, we're going to provide some extra resources for you guys. And then here's going to be all your slides and everything here. Just to run through some other quick stuff real quick, we've got some best viewing tips. I know everybody's been watching a lot of Mandalorian lately, so we're going to go ahead and throw out no Netflix and no Disney+. However, free, you can keep your bandwidth. It's going to make everything run a lot more smoothly. And then obviously, too, however many Wi-Fi connected devices you have in a certain location is going to slow things down. So if you can turn that stuff off as well, it'll help things. And then finally, the other thing that we're going to throw out as a consideration is we would not recommend Mozilla or Netscape or any other internet exploring browsers. Internet Explorer is probably going to be, the best one. Chrome is a really good one. Those are going to be kind of recommended. So, and then finally, a common question we get is how long will it take until the on-demand training is ready? It's going to be 48 hours. So just give it a couple days, and if you miss part of this for any reason or you couldn't make it, that'll be available for you to watch at your convenience. So just a quick introduction. I'm Nick Johnson. I'm an account executive here. I'm sure I've spoken with many of you over the phone or through email. I'm happy to be here, happy to welcome you guys to another exciting training. And then for our presenter tonight, we've got Tyler Hershberger. Come on in, Tyler. Great to have you. Great to have you here.
Good.
So Tyler is normally on the other side of the camera, but he is our resident in-house smart home expert. So we couldn't think of a better person to guide us through this training tonight. Again, Tyler is the expert. Please fire away with any questions that you might have. We'll be able to knock those out for you. And what we're going to focus on tonight is setting up and installing these smart home devices. I know that can be difficult. For a lot of people, I know sometimes you don't have the Wi-Fi password. You're going to need the homeowner's help to do some of this stuff. But Tyler is going to do everything he can to make it as easy as possible. So again, we're very excited for tonight. Don't hesitate with your questions, and we'll be happy to get it rolling. Thank you. Thanks, Tyler.
All right, sounds good.
There we go.
All right, let's get going. So just really quick, make sure that everyone can hear me correctly, right? Yes? No? Hopefully we're going good. All right, so let's get rolling. So tonight we have 3 key takeaways that we're going to go over. We're going to want to understand smart home elements. We're going to do basic system design, installation, and programming. And then finally, we want to learn how to diagnose common problems. So tonight, we've really talked about this being a field engineering episode where you can ask questions, common problems that you have, specifically more pertaining to the programming and an installation side. To get to that point, we have a couple polls that we want to ask you. So the first poll is, what is your experience level with smart homes? Okay, so I'm going to give you guys a couple seconds to be able to answer those questions. You see the options are, I can do it in my sleep, I am familiar with most systems, I can use a smartphone, okay, or I just asked my kid on any tech newer than 1995. Yeah, I know, that's what my kids are 5 and 3, and I feel like my 5-year-old already knows more stuff about technology than I do. It's pretty scary. So we'll kind of give you guys a second to be able to answer that poll, and then we'll go see what the results are. So again, tonight our main goal is to really walk through the programming side of smart homes. We're going to be looking at hubs, we're going to be looking at products, we're going to be looking how all these things connect to each other using like Alexa or Google devices, all that communicating stuff. So, all right, let's take this look at the poll results. So, Jackson, if you could advance it to the next slide for me, let's see what the average person's. Aha! All right, so 60% of you guys said I can use a smartphone. All right, that's a good start at least. That's a great start. None of you guys said nothing. All right, so then the next part, 40% says I'm familiar with most systems. All right, so it looks like we don't have anybody that is a smart home expert, which is great, which is pretty common in this industry. And then it looks like everybody has at least some experience. Okay, let's move on to the next one. So, and this poll asks, do you have any smart home products currently in your own home? Do you guys have any Alexa devices, Google devices? Maybe you guys have a smart thermostat or something like that already in your house, or some lighting, all that type of stuff. And I'll kind of explain why I'm asking this question here in a little bit. So I'll give you guys a second to be able to answer that question. So yeah, if this is something that you guys are currently working on a day-to-day basis, are you already installing it, or is it already currently in your own home? All right, let's see the results. Let's move on to the next slide. All right, right now we got 50-50. So 50% of you guys have stuff already in your house, 50% don't. All right, that's a great spot to be. And then finally, now this is really important. This one will be something that I'll leave up there for a second, is what are some common issues that you have with smart technology? If you haven't already put it in the Q&A, take a moment to give some common problems that you have, because Nick and I are going to be talking back and forth tonight during tonight's training, so that way we can answer a lot of your guys' questions as much as we can. So let's go ahead and leave this slide up there for a second while I keep on moving and talking about kind of like what we're going to be building. So tonight, again, we're talking about programming and scheduling, but I have to talk real quickly about all the steps that come before you get to the programming / scheduling phase. So in order for your programming to go smoothly, you really have to spend some good time at the beginning planning out your functions. So you're walking through with your homeowner, helping them understand this is what it can do. You talk with them and say, how do you really want your house to work? So once you've taken that time to understand their needs and what they're hoping to get out of the system, then you can start making recommendations on which products are best to go into their home. Oh, I'm going to go back real quick. So then the second step is system design. So once you have a plan, then you can actually put a design together to know what programs and what products all work with each other to achieve the ultimate goal that you guys set up in step 1. And then the step 3 is to do the install. So now you know what they want, you know what products you're going to use, and then you're going to install the products within their home. And that ultimately brings us down to the step where we're going to really focus on tonight, which is the programming and scheduling and getting the smart home actually to do what they're hoping to do in the first step. All right, so let's talk about some common problems. So throughout the evening, I'm going to be popping up a common problem that we have with smart home installation and programming. So our first problem is, I'm not sure how to make these products talk with each other. That's a question I get all the time. We have these cameras and we have these boxes and lights, and like, how do we make them all talk to each other? That's a really, really good question. And the first step in this solution is to get hands-on experience with the products. Okay, what do I mean by that? I mean that all these products, there's going to be some sort of learning curve to kind of help them work together and to understand how to connect them. But once you get your hands on them, once you have actually installed them into your own home, that's where I was asking that poll earlier, you start to understand like how a schedule works, how to build stuff, how to get it to, now is it going to work perfect the first time? Probably not. But once you start using the systems, once you start understanding how they connect to your phone, how does it all work, it starts making more and more sense. It becomes less and less daunting or scary. So just to tell a quick story from my perspective, the reason why I went down the road of smart homes is, as I mentioned earlier, I have 2 young kids and my wife, and she works from home a couple days a week. And one night I came home and I found that our car had been broken into while I was at work. And it kind of freaked me out a little bit. And so I started looking into what products could I put into my own home to help kind of protect that. So that's when I eventually got the Ring doorbell, and then I've added a plethora of other things because I got bit by the bug, and I've added a lot of stuff we'll talk about later. But it all started from a pain point that I had, and then it forced me down that road. And since then, now I've been able to connect a lot of those products a lot smoother and easier just because I've been playing with them now for about 4 or 5 years. Okay, so now let's start talking about actually getting these products connected to begin with. And then once we talk about the connecting them to their apps and connecting them to the hub, then we'll walk through how to program them. Well, first, do we have any questions yet, Nicholas? No. Any questions? No questions that we need to be worried about? All right, great. What were some of the, my wife? Was there a question going back and forth between? Terry, I'd be interested to see what the reference was for that. Common problem. Oh, common problem is his wife. Okay. All right. All right. So what we're going to do is we're going to walk through a common setup for smart home technologies. You see that we have a couple lights here. So you have one light that's some sort of like hanging light that's in the home. It's going to be connected to a light switch typically. And then maybe a floor lamp that's plugged into an outlet. And then we have a thermostat that happens to be on the wall. Now, in this scenario, all 3 of these smart devices, this smart switch, smart thermostat, and smart outlet, they speak different languages. So what we need to do is we need to have some sort of hub or unifying device, which you can see right here is a Wink platform, but there's a lot of different smart home platforms we'll talk about. You need to have those all connect together so that you can actually start making them all work together. So that you have to have some unifying device to have their languages connected. So then we've added Amazon Alexa, and this is going to be some sort of vocal control. And so in this scenario, we're going to say, Alexa, I want to turn on the lights. And I can do a practical demonstration. So we have here, Alexa, turn on studio light. Okay? So what just happened was, I'm going to mute this so I don't keep turning her off. What just happened is I talked to Alexa. Alexa then talked to the hub. The hub then talked to the outlet that I have plugged in this lamp to turn on. So you kind of understand that signal flow of what just happened there. So that's kind of how you can get Alexa to turn on this lamp. So there was no actual direct way for Alexa to control this lamp right out of the box. We needed some sort of unifying device, which is this hub. Now, one of the big changes that is happening is Alexa is starting to do a lot more and more of that. So Amazon, which owns Alexa, wants to be a major player within the smart home industry, and so they are making their devices smarter and smarter to the point where this guy's probably going to be going away, if I had to guess, within 2 to 3 years. Like right now, he is necessary to be able to like mediate the conversations between all the smart home devices, but he's quickly going by the wayside, whereas Alexa will be able to speak directly to all these devices, and then same with Google Hub and Apple HomeKit. So that kind of gives you an idea of how this works. Now real quick, let's talk about hubs, just real quick. So over here, you have the big 3, Control4, Crestron, and Savant. They are, if you do smart home technology, if you are an integrator, if you are doing this professionally, this is probably the systems that you've already familiar with and that you'll be doing. These are high ticket items, big homes. They are a lot of programming is involved, a lot. You have to really understand how to do networking. There's just a lot more to it. Now they're more robust. You can do more things with them, But this isn't going to be the typical system that you are going to be necessarily working with on a day-to-day basis. On this other side, what I call prosumer level, are going to be your Wink, your SmartThings, your Google Home, your Apple HomeKit, and your Amazon Alexas. Those are going to be the ones that you guys really want to focus on. Those are the ones that you can easily kind of get out of the box, play with, get them connected, get the home working and doing what you want, your homeowner wants it to do, without necessarily having to go back to college and get a degree in smart home technology and integration and installation, all that type of stuff. So again, if someone comes up to you and asks, hey, can you install a Control4 system in my house? I would recommend just saying, at this time, we are not a Control4 dealer. You actually have to go through school and get a certification to install their products. So at this time, this is the best way to go with one of these devices. Again, if you have any questions, I know I'm kind of going quickly, just let me know. We have anything come through yet, Nick? All right, make sure you guys ask those questions. All right, so the second common problem that I've heard a lot going through the system is when I'm trying to connect all this stuff, I need some sort of username and password and accounts, and but I don't have that stuff. How often have you guys been trying to install maybe a smart thermostat in someone's home and like they're gone or they're on the other side of the house or something and you can't connect to their Wi-Fi? It's pretty frustrating, right? Well, we have put together this workbook that helps you as you're walking through the planning stages of a smart home solution. You're walking through, you're answering a bunch of questions, but back here in the back, as you're walking through with your homeowner, you ask the question, what is your Wi-Fi network? What are the passwords? And you sit there and you write these all down in the planning stages. That way, when it's up to your techs to be able to install and program the smart home, they'll have all this documented for them so they can do this without needing the homeowner and bringing them or phone calls or any of that type of stuff. And in your guys' resources section, you can see some PDF downloads for this. There's a couple different versions of it. So if you guys want to take those and download them for yourselves, print them off at your location and use those just as a tool to help you plan a smart home, or if you want to contact us and ask us any questions during that planning stage, that's when I highly recommend actually writing that stuff down. So here's your solution. Yeah, write down and create accounts during the planning stage. That's really, really important to make sure that the programming steps go super smooth. All right, so next up, let's talk about creating product accounts. So what does that mean? So if you look on your screen, I have 3 different examples here. I have a Nest account, a Amazon account, and an Ecobee account. So as you guys have gotten into more and more smart thermostats, you'll realize that you can no longer just wire the stat up to the equipment anymore and walk away, right? There's a little bit more to that setup process now by creating individual accounts, ultimately so the homeowner can log into that account using their smart device, whether it be a tablet or phone, and then they can, connect to those devices in their homes from anywhere in the world, right? So pretty much any smart home product now is going to require you to probably download some sort of app and create an account. So let's walk through that. So in order to make an account, if you're doing on location, obviously you have to make sure that the Wi-Fi is working and you have connection to the network. Make sure you've downloaded the apps. You're going to use the smart home specific email. All right, let me pause there for a second. What do I mean by that? So it is highly, highly recommended if you are going to be helping install a smart home system with homeowners that you sit down with them and create a brand new email account. So probably like a Gmail or a Yahoo, one of those free accounts that you can set up that's specifically for smart home accounts. So that way they're not using their personal email, because the reason for that is, heaven forbid, that they have some sort of security issue where one of the devices gets compromised and then they have access to the username and passwords for that account or whatever that device just got compromised. This way, you're not giving away your personal email account, which might have more sensitive materials. You just have a very, you just put it in a bubble, hold it off to the side, so all of the notifications, all that type of stuff is just going to its own separate location. And then you can use that same email and password for all of your accounts. Now, I do mention next, it is best practice to use different passwords. So what I mean by that is, have you guys ever heard of LastPass? It's a new service that's offered that basically allows you to auto-generate a new password for every device that you have, every account that you have. So you would download the app LastPass, and then you would, as you sign into each individual account, you can assign a randomly generated massive long password for it. But then it memorizes that within the actual app itself. So it has the database on your phone, and you just do it one time, and then the app itself remembers the password to all those different locations, so that way you can stay secure. So that is one route to go. Or, as I mentioned before, if you just create a email account specific for smart homes and just make a password just for that. Remember that you have a smart home password, use it for all those, so that way you don't compromise your bank account or something like that by having the same password for everything. Because again, there is a small possibility, there have been documented cases where smart home devices have been hacked into or compromised by an outside entity, at which point they were able to get the account information or Wi-Fi information for that home. So that's just a best practice, okay? So next up, during this process, you need to make sure your homeowner does confirm the account, but hopefully you've already done this through the setup process. And then there's that document that I mentioned. Okay, so again, let me know if you have any questions. We're going to move on quickly to a setup. So I have a Nest device that I'm wanting to set up. I have a camera in this example, actually, this camera. So what we're going to do is we're going to add a new device by clicking this gear icon. I'm going to scroll down and I'm going to add a product, at which point it's going to ask me to scan a QR code on the camera itself. So there you go. You see that it was picked up. And then it's going to access a Wi-Fi. I'm going to tell where this camera is located in my house. And then make sure it's plugged in. And now it's going to try to connect to the camera itself. So your app is connecting. Great. We're connected. Now I choose a Wi-Fi network and put in the password for that Wi-Fi network. And that's pretty much it. Now we just wait. So now the camera is trying to connect to the Wi-Fi network. And once it's done, it will say green. Great. It's finishing some stuff up. And then once that's finished, you'll see the device has been added to the account. You hit next. Then you can do some sort of features, like if it's a certain type of camera, you might be able to turn on facial recognition or whatnot. And then last, you'll be able to see the device has been added to the account. And that's really all it is. So in my example, I used this camera, and you see that in most cases there's some sort of QR code. That's pretty common now for smart home devices that are going to be using Wi-Fi specifically. So security cameras, if you have like these smart smoke detectors, you'll see that there's a QR code on the back. So really, when you're trying to connect a lot of these devices to your account, to the phone, they make it very simple. Most apps nowadays will actually walk you through that whole process. Yeah, it's getting super simple. Okay, we got any questions come through yet? Nope. All right, I must be answering all the questions really well. Okay, so next up. Well, really quickly, can you check the survey to see if anything came through? So if you go to that tab, while Nicholas is looking, let's talk about the next common problem that we have when doing setups. So a common problem is product will not connect to Wi-Fi. I just had this happen to me the other day. So here's a couple solutions you can walk through if you're having some problems. So make sure that you have the correct password. That is the first step. Make sure that it was written down correctly, that you're putting in all the upper cases, lower cases, punctuation, all that type of stuff. But here's something that you really have to know. There is currently no smart home devices that run off of 5G. Oh, we do have a question.
So Tyler, Stuart is wondering about what it's going to take to keep outdoor lights connected to Wi-Fi.
Outdoor lights. Okay, so Stuart, if you can help me get a little bit more specific, when you say outdoor lights connected to Wi-Fi, are you saying that the light bulbs themselves are Wi-Fi connected bulbs, or are they other type of bulbs? So if they're Wi-Fi connected light bulbs, most likely you don't have a big enough footprint for your Wi-Fi network. So you would need to do something like get a mesh network. So there are different mesh network, so Google has their own Google Wi-Fi product that you can place basically these pucks around the home that will extend the footprint of your Wi-Fi network a little bit wider. So I actually have to do that with my house because I also have some exterior smart Wi-Fi bulbs where they're on the front of my house that I needed to put a Wi-Fi puck up in my attic, and that way that I had a far enough spread across the house. So I don't rely just on a single location to try to serve Wi-Fi throughout the entire home. So Stuart, let me know if that was ultimately your question. If not, type in and we'll try to get a little bit deeper on that. So quickly going back to this issue actually with Wi-Fi, there are no other Wi-Fi products that currently use 5G network. So a lot of routers will allow you to pick, do you want your device to be connected to 5G or 2.4? So all smart home products, if it is using the communication protocol of Wi-Fi, need to be on the 2.4 gigahertz network. So as I said I did have this issue at my parents' house while helping them install. They had the ability to choose either or. At my house, I can't actually choose. My Wi-Fi chooses which network is best fits for that device. But at their house, we accidentally were trying to add some of their devices to the 5G network and it just wasn't connecting. And then we're like, oh yeah, that's right, it doesn't connect. So if you're just connecting, you're putting in the password correctly and it's still kicking it, then go back a few steps, check to make sure you're adding it to the correct Wi-Fi network, and then go from there and keep on trying. Yeah, Nick.
So Tyler, real quick, and this is honestly for my own knowledge here as well. Earlier you talked about the chance of a little bit of like a security issue with some Wi-Fi devices.
Sure.
And I personally have heard, this might be getting a little bit more in depth here, but about the use of a VPN to protect those devices. And maybe you want to save that question for later, I don't know, but since we're touching on that issue, I did want to talk about some of the remedies that might be available and help keep these contractors, homeowners as secure as possible.
Sure, yeah. I mean, using a VPN is really, really helpful, especially if you're connecting to your home's Wi-Fi from outside locations. So let's just say that you are at the coffee shop and you happen to connect to their local Wi-Fi and you try to control something in your smart home from that location. What you've done is you've connected to a local network and you are now connecting to your smart home through an unsecured network, which is ultimately going to allow anybody that's on that network potentially watching your activity get basically a gateway to your home. Whereas using a VPN is a great solution to help protect against that, because you'll be using some sort of VPN device on your phone that you connect to first, and then you create a secure login directly back to your home, which really helps. A VPN, ultimately a VPN is a way that, the best way I can describe a VPN is you are creating a secure login that you have to have a username and you have to have a password basically on both ends of the location of the connection. So when you have your smart home, your router on one end and your smart device on the other end, and you connect through, then there's a handshake. So they know that this is a secure connection, so it's going to allow that traffic to pass through. There are other benefits to using VPN, especially if you're at home. So if you're just using this pathway to get to the internet that's a little bit more secure, you're going to block any type of browser history being tracked by outside entities. So let's say your internet service provider is potentially tracking if you're using Netflix all the time. So if you use the secure connection through a VPN service to get to the internet, then they won't be able to track that information either. So it's ultimately it's a great investment if you really are security conscious about just your home data in general. So yeah, I highly recommend using VPNs. Okay,
Excellent.
Great question.
Good stuff.
Anything else?
What does VPN stand for? That's what I was. Just virtual private network, right?
Yeah. So
There
it
we
is
go.
your private network.
Just in case.
All right, great. So let's go ahead and move on. So products to the app. Let's talk about ecosystems now. So as you see, I have a Nest, I have a Honeywell, and I have a Ring. So each one of those manufacturers produces multiple products within their own ecosystem. So you see in the Nest, they have locks, cameras, the smart thermostat, the smoke detector, security systems, all this type of stuff that Google now produces through Nest are all under that one label. Then same with Honeywell. We all know Honeywell. They've been part of our families for a long time. They're part, a lot of them are getting into the smart home stuff now, so they have the security systems, the cameras, the water leak detectors, the shut-off valves. They're really investing heavily with Resideo now into the smart home world. There's a lot of really cool stuff coming down the pipe with that we keep on hearing. And then finally Ring, you see they have all these products. Now, when we are in the programming / designing stage, I highly recommend to your homeowner that you try to stay within the same ecosystem if you have the ability to. So if they come to you and say, I want a Ring doorbell with a Nest camera and a Honeywell thermostat, okay? Can that be done? Yes, yeah, it can be done, but that means you're gonna be in 3 different playing fields, sandboxes of products, so you're gonna have to have an app for Nest, Honeywell, and Ring. And what you lose is you lose any of the little interconnectivity that having the similar products affords you. For example, if you have a Nest or Google ecosystem, say you have the Nest thermostat, you have the cameras, smoke detectors, all that type of stuff. If in case of a fire, say your Protect detects a fire, what it will instantly do is it will shut down your thermostat, so it will turn off the fans so you're no longer circulating air through the home, and then all the cameras will immediately start recording so that they can have a security documentation of the fire, what happened, and all that type of stuff for security purposes. And if you had a Nest sprinkler system, then it'll actually turn on your sprinkler system and trying to get as much water around the house as it possibly can to try to prevent the spread of fire. So if you are using products within that same ecosystem, there's just little things that they program together that just kind of helps them work together easier that you would lose if you use multiple devices from different families. Not to say that you couldn't do it. I personally have now, my house is a bad example because I just test stuff out. I have Honeywell cameras, Nest cameras, Ring products, and I have a Wink hub, and I just have a lot of different stuff that I'm always playing with. But you can make them all work together. But it is recommended to kind of use the same ecosystem. So next up, let's talk about how do we connect those ecosystems to some sort of hub, because we've talked about if you're going to be using all these other devices, there has to be some sort of way to tie them all together, right? So the way we connect the Nest to, or the Honeywell or the Ring to Wink, you'll see this little video playing. Basically, when you try to connect a device to your app for Wink or Smart Home or Smart Things or whatever, as soon as you try to add one of those devices, it will ask you to log into the account for that particular family or ecosystem. And once you do, as long as you've connected all those devices already, like let's just say Alexa, you've already connected all those products in there, once you connect it to Wink, it'll pull all those products in together, and suddenly you go from having nothing connected to all of these devices already connected for you. We got a question.
So Ernest is wondering, and I got to assume he's just talking about general like smart home ecosystems, but he says, does
Sure.
it work with all Wi-Fi products such as Sensi?
Sure. Yeah. So Sensi is in and of itself is a smart thermostat, and they are going to, they themselves don't have their own ecosystem per se, because they're not really a manufacturer of a bunch of different smart home devices, but they will play well as if with as many devices they possibly can. So they'll work with Alexa, they'll work with Google. You'll be able to connect them for the most part to most of the smart home products, because since they only produce the one product, they're going to try to work with everybody as much as possible. The flip side is, let's say Nest, for example, they just did announce that they are closing down their ecosystem, so you can no longer use Google products with outside products, because they want to produce as many as they possibly can, and then they want you to use all their own products. So gone are the days where you will quickly be able to connect the Sensi to the Google system, so you won't be able to connect using the Google Assistant. Now, to this day, Alexa is going the other way. They're opening up as much as they possibly can, so most likely that's going to be the direction that Sensi would be able to connect. Does that answer your question? Nick, we have another one?
Yeah, we got another one here. So we're wondering about the Ecobee and or Android in particular, and basically wondering with those devices or in this ecosystem, could you write a program for the thermostat? So I think we're talking about scenes.
Okay.
I think scenes is what we're getting at here.
So yeah, who was that?
Adar Galimov.
Adar. Okay.
Good Corp.
So when you're talking about programs, are you talking about actually controlling the function of the Ecobee thermostat, like using through APIs, through like a computer system, or are you looking to, when I leave the house, then set my thermostat back to, I don't know, 65 degrees? Something like that. Give me a little bit more clarification on your question, and we'll get right back to that, okay?
He said yes. He said yes to that.
Yes to that?
So yeah, I think it's going to be the latter.
Okay.
Yeah.
So yes, there are, when you connect the Ecobee thermostat, again, since I have the Wink in my house, I'm going to speak a little bit more to that. When you connect the device to the Wink system, then that allows you to create robots or routines that say, when I do X, when I leave the house, when I say this command, when I don't know, if at this certain time of day, then make this happen. So in most cases with the Ecobee thermostat, then that means it's going to set back or set forward. Now, there are some limitations sometimes when, specifically with Ecobee, because they are not in their own ecosystem. Like they're not like a Nest. So like Nest and Google, since they're owned by the same manufacturer, they're going to have far more control. So you'll be able to do a lot more potentially with a Nest product, but you still will have the ability to make routines that include Ecobee down the road. And we'll talk a little bit more about creating routines here in a second. Okay, so now you've connected your ecosystems to some sort of hub. Okay. Now the last step is, how do we connect all these ancillary products? So products like light switches, or products like outlets or smart blinds or something like that that might not particularly have their own app. They just connect directly to some sort of controlling hub using protocols like Z-Wave or Zigbee. So Z-Wave and Zigbee are similar to Wi-Fi in there that they're communicating protocols, but they are different in that we all have a Wi-Fi network within our homes for most part, whereas these Zigbee and Z-Wave are much lower power, point-to-point, what they call mesh networks. So if you were to have multiple devices that speak Zigbee, they all would actually just talk to each other, not using Wi-Fi, and then they would connect directly to a hub, something like this. Or Alexa now has an antenna in their Alexa hub that does speak. If I remember right, it is Z-Wave. I'd have to check on that. It's one or the other. But the Alexa doesn't speak both at the moment. But if you have some sort of device like this, they will speak all of them for now. But as I mentioned earlier, they're going to, down the road, you're going to be able to control anything with one of the Alexa devices. So how do we connect these ancillary products? As I mentioned, you will have in the app for whatever hub you choose, again, whether Alexa or Wink, the ability to add a specific product. Now, I highly recommend that you choose whatever hub you're going to use at the very beginning, because that will determine what products you can or can't use down the road. So you can't assume that, okay, all of these products are going to potentially connect into this system. So if Wink, for example, did not have a partnership with GE light switches, you would not be able to connect that into your system. So I highly recommend starting with some sort of hub or controlling device and looking to see what devices can connect to it. That just will make your lives way, way simpler. And once you do, then the setup is pretty simple. You just will go through their list of devices, choose the device that you're looking for, and then the app will just walk you through it. It's really, really simple. Okay, so next up, we're going to have programming and scheduling. So now we've spent some time walking through how to get all these devices at least talking the same language, connecting to each other. Now let's go down the road of how do we make them do what we actually want to do, to our question we had earlier, how do we program them, right? Okay, so programming and scheduling routines. We have some sort of if statement. So if I say a voice command, or if I scheduled a time during the day, or if a device detects some sort of temperature or humidity or motion or sound, so if it detects some sort of triggering device, or if a local event happens, like I happen to arrive home, or if I've pressed some sort of button, then make this happen. So examples are like turn the lights off, or start playing music, or run a movie scene. So you can get as granular as I want this button that I press to turn off one light. Or you can get as complex to say when I press this button, I want my whole house to completely change. I want all my lights to turn down. I want my thermostat to go to 105 degrees because we're about to have a hot yoga event in our house. Who knows? Whatever you guys are into. Or if it's in my house, for example, at 7:45, when it's time for my kids to go to bed, I just have it programmed at 7:45, dim almost all the lights down, music starts playing over the speakers, and actually Alexa says something to my kids and tells them to go to bed. It never works, but I keep hoping, right? After 5 or 6 months, you'd think they would get the hint that it's time to go to bed, but they're boys, so they don't really listen to anything anyway. So I use that scheduled time to have this action happen. I also have one in my house that says, when it is sunset, turn all the exterior lights around my house on. And then when it's sunrise, turn them all off again. Because I was having the problem that I would turn all my exterior lights on again to try to protect the house and keep things from happening to our cars. And then I would leave and forget to turn them off, and then my light bulbs would all burn out within 2 weeks, and then I was spending more time trying to change out light bulbs in my front sconces than I was actually enjoying time with my family. So I scheduled it, and then it changes based on when sunrise and sunset happens, and that just comes from the internet timing. So and then now, since it's actually Christmas time, my Christmas lights come on at sunset, and then I have them all actually turn off at midnight because no one's going to be looking at my house, hopefully, after midnight. And then everything just keeps on going on. Okay? And then the last part, if, then, until. So I mentioned that I had if, so at a certain time, turn on the lights, turn on my Christmas lights, until a certain something's happened. So another example is I might have music start playing at 8 o'clock, but I only want it to play for an hour. And I don't want to necessarily remember to turn it off. So it plays for an hour and then it turns itself off. Make sense? we have any questions so far on some of this, just this logic of when I'm programming? I'm saying if something happens, if if I can tell temperature-wise that my house is really cold, if my house is, say, sub 50, I know that there's probably some sort of problem. So if my house is under 50 degrees, then send me a notification. Send me an email telling me that there's probably a problem with my house. Right now, a lot of thermostats already do this function, but if you have an older system, an older thermostat that's not a smart thermostat, you can have this program where it will trigger alerts to you, or in the case of like the leak detector, if this detector detects water, then send me a notification so that way you can protect your house. Make sense, guys? Good? All right. So I mentioned this as an example earlier. You can say, hey, Alexa, do this, like set up a scene. If I say, hey, Alexa, it's movie time, then at my house, all the lights around the TV go down. My TV actually turns on using a Harmony system, and then it automatically sets itself to the DVD player, which then most of the time I have to change back to Netflix or some other, like, Disney Plus. Been crushing The Mandalorian recently. It's been fun. Anyway, that's off topic. So you can use some sort of vocal command, and then it can have some sort of overarching effect across the entire house. And the way you're going to program these, a lot of times we'll have to go back to whatever controlling hub you're using, again, whether it's Wink or Alexa, and then you really start getting into their control. So with Wink, they have what's called robots, and you'll walk through that setup. So actually, Alex, if you can, let's see, let's go to Smart Home. Let's go to Wink. I'll just kind of show you guys a practical example of this. Alex, can you put this up on the screen for me? Okay, so you guys can see this. What I'm going to do is I'm going to go down to robots, and in this case, that's what they're called. They're not called routines. And I would say create a new robot. And you'll see that, do I want this to be triggered based off of the time of day, the product or sensor, or location? So you can choose how it's going to trigger. Let's just say time of day for simple. So I'm going to say at 6 p.m. Well, yeah, so you guys see down there the sunrise and sunset options as well. So that would take that info from the internet. Let's just say 6 p.m. And it's going to repeat when. Let's have it do it only on Wednesday. Why not? Just so I deselect the other days. So I'm going to have at 6 p.m. every Wednesday, I'm going to do something. Now, I don't have a ton of examples here because I don't have a lot of products connected into this particular ecosystem, but let's just say I'm going to take this studio light and I'm going to make sure it turns on and hit save and done. So I know, then it wants me to name it. Let's do test. There we go. So now it's saved. So I just created a test routine that says that every Wednesday at 6 o'clock, this light's going to turn on. It's that simple. Now, I didn't write anything to tell it to turn off, so it's just going to turn on every Wednesday, and then it's just going to stay on until somebody walks in and turns it off. But you could, if you really wanted to, say, create another routine that says at this particular time, turn it off. Make sense? Were they all able to see that? Good? Do we have any questions so far? Nope, no questions? All right. I must be answering a lot of their questions as we go. All right, so this is going to show you, walk you through examples of creating the routines. I just walked you through what it looks like for Wink. You'll see the Wink option there. In Alexa, you'll add the routine. Basically, you'll say when it's bedtime, and you'll see, notice that it's actually very, very similar between Wink, Alexa, Google Home, and SmartThings. So if something happens then make it happen. So once you understand this concept, guys, it's very, very similar to do it for another system. So if you guys happen to walk into a home and they have smart things more so than another solution that you're more comfortable with, really in the end, it's going to be very, very similar the way that you're going to set things up. Okay, which brings us to common problem number 4. My routine didn't work. I set it up, I told it what I wanted it to do, but didn't do it. It did not work. Okay, so what's our solution? So first, look to see if you have a conflicting command. All right, what do I mean by that? All right, going back to my examples of our Christmas lights and stuff like that I've set up at my house. In my scenario, at sunset, the Christmas lights of all around my house turn on, and all of my sconces on the front of my house turn green. Okay, so that's what I had it programmed to do at sunset. And then at midnight, I wanted all my Christmas lights to turn off, and then my sconces to turn back to their typical white color. So I'm like, okay, I got this. This is going to look cool. And then the next morning, or actually the next evening after I had programmed it, the Christmas lights turned on great, but all the lights were white. They weren't green. I'm like, man, why is that not working? What had happened was I had just put in these smart bulbs for the holiday season because they could change colors. Before that, I just had typical LED lights in those sconces, and I had smart switches that were turning them on and off. What happened was the smart switches, I had those also in off mode, and they didn't turn on until sunset. So what happened was the smart switches turned on and Alexa was sending the command for all of them to turn green at the exact same time. So none of the bulbs actually got the command to turn green, so they just stayed the color that they turned at midnight when they turned white. So what I had to do is I had to go back and I had to take out currently the commands for the light switches themselves to turn on and off, to bring the lights on and off. I was just sending the commands to the smart bulbs to turn themselves on and off, and then that solved the problem. So there was a conflicting command that wasn't allow the routine to work properly. Okay? So the next possible solution if your routine's not working is the routine paused or turned off? So Alex, if you go back to my iPad, okay, so you'll see up here I have the ability to turn this routine on and off. So this helps if you're doing tests and stuff like that, but it's not uncommon or unheard of for you to have set up a routine, potentially tested it out, hit the button, let's just say I hit it here, and then I walk away. So at this point, is my light going to turn on Wednesday at 6 o'clock? No, because it's been told that to turn off. So you'll just need to have the homeowner or check it yourselves, go into the routines, make sure there's no conflicts, then make sure that that robot is turned on or enabled. And that is, you can do that in all of the different devices. Alexa, you can do that. SmartThings, Google, you can turn on and off those routines. Okay, makes sense? All right. Looking good. Again, if you guys have any questions, let me know. I'm here for you. I want to make sure that you guys have a complete understanding of how this all works, how it's connected, and how we can be more confident when we walk into a home to be able to get these programs up and running. Okay, so now we've talked about getting them all connected to your smart devices, getting the routines in place for them to work. Now the final step is training / troubleshooting. So I'll be the first to admit that right now smart home technology is in its infancy. It's very at the beginning stages. Things are going to break. Things are going to stop working. They're going to stop connecting. They're going to no longer talk to each other. There's going to be a maintenance involved from the homeowner's perspective of how to keep their smart home doing what they want it to do. So to that end, it's going to be up to us as contractors to walk in and help educate them in how their smart home is actually functioning and working. Unless you guys have some sort of agreement with them that if they have any problems, then you come out for a service call or something like that, great. But the best thing to do is try to help your homeowner understand how it all works together, potentially to mediate some of those calls to you guys. So let's walk through some of these steps. First, we're going to talk with training. So we're going to walk through the routines with our homeowner. Okay, so we have them all here. We've put them into our document. So once you've gone through, you've set this all up, there's a page back here that says if this, then that. So you can write down the different types of routines that you're going to be putting into this homeowner. So, and you may come up with more than what's on this sheet, but what you want to do is you want to make sure that they know exactly what their home is supposed to do, and then you have it written down and documented in some place. Okay? So then the next step, so if possible, build a routine with your homeowner. So help them add something. So it's actually pretty easy. If you have a light bulb or something like that that you connected, go through and disconnect it from the system. You've made sure it works and you know how it goes. Disconnect it and walk them through the process of what it's like to connect that bulb back into your system, so that way they can understand, oh, I press this button and then this button and then I make sure that this is connected and it has to be blinking like this. And you walk them through and you show them that the app is actually pretty useful to help walk them through that process. So once they've seen it done, then it's going to be easier for them to potentially have to repeat that if down the road something happens and it's no longer connected. Okay? So next step, have your homeowner create a routine there for you, in front of you. If, say, set up some sort of time for the light to turn on or off. Just have them walk through that process with you, so that way they understand how it all works. Okay, so that's the training part of it, helping them understand the home. Now let's talk about troubleshooting. Oh man, I've spent many hours, more than I'd like to admit, trying to figure out why my ceiling fan is no longer doing what it's supposed to do. And that's just, unfortunately, the nature of the beast with a lot of these products, is that it won't do exactly what you were hoping it to do. Potentially, it might work fine for the first 6 months, and then it might develop a quirk. You never know. So, troubleshooting. Let's walk through basic steps of troubleshooting, how you're trying to find the problem. Okay, first thing, you're going to check the cables. I can't tell you how many times. All right, this just happened to me the other day. None of my exterior lights were turning on, and I was really frustrated. I was checking the switches. They were working fine. I'm like, why is this not working? Well, I forgot to mention that the Wi-Fi puck for my mesh network, the plug, is actually in my 3-year-old's bedroom. So at some point, my 3-year-old son must have ran over and just unplugged that sucker and just let it go. And it took me trying to figure out why is this not working? Well, what's going on, to be able to something's unplugged. So that's your first step. Just go around the house, check to make sure things are still plugged in, the lights are still on. 9 times out of 10, I'll say that is most likely the issue. Plug it back in, it should start working fine again. Okay? So next thing is to reset or restart everything. I know a lot of you guys get this. So when you ask a question to an IT professional, their number one thing is to say, did you turn off and turn on your computer? It's the same thing. If they're having a problem with something with their hub or whatnot, just have them turn it off, unplug it, plug it back in, and that is going to fix the problem a lot as well. So yes, that includes your router modem, if you have voice assistants, smart hubs, or power breaker, whatever. Just turn them down or turn them off, bring them back up, see if that clears the issue. Now, if you keep having problems, there are a couple steps you can take. There are sometimes solutions within the app themselves. There's common problems that you can check with. There's some sort of service phone number a lot of times you can call if you're having a problem with Alexa or Wink. There's a number you can give them a call and they might be able to help you through that. And then what I highly recommend is for you to write down the problem that you had and then write down the solution. So, and you can write that down in these documents that allows you then to document what problems the homeowner has had, and then how are some ways that you can actually fix it down the road. So that way, again, if the problem comes back up, then they don't have to give you a call, okay? So, and then if there's any error messages or anything like that that pops up onto your app, just take note of that. And then again, if you're having more problems beyond that, what you can do is we have an IT team here at Jackson Systems that is designed to be there for you and to help you through any problems that you might have. If you need help programming or help setting up some sort of issue, if you want to design help, whatever, we have a great team here at Jackson Systems that will work with you and your homeowner to find that best solution. So yeah, if there's a problem that you can't figure out with any of the products that we sell here, give us a call. A lot of you guys have used our support lines already for our typical HVAC related products when you call downstairs. Same thing goes with all of our smart home solutions. So if it's just a little bit different of a team. So we're a little bit more savvy when it comes to networking and trying to get these things back up and running so that way you can go to your homeowner, you can still be the expert, and you can help them fix the problem, whatever they have. So we have a virtual technician app at Jackson Systems that you can download to your phone that allows you basically to connect via video to any of our techs. So you're out in the field, you're having a problem, you can basically spin up what amounts to a FaceTime call on your iPad and it connects directly to us, and then we'll be able to sit there and walk through the problem with you and have a visual on the issue itself so we can see, oh, that's not wired properly or anything like that. And you can use that for anything that we have here at Jackson Systems, any of our HVAC related products or any of our smart home stuff. And then finally, if you'd like, you can schedule us to come out and work with you guys. If you're having some major issues, we're more than willing to either get on a call like this where we can talk one-on-one through your issues, or in certain scenarios we'll actually come to you and your location. We'll help you design and do some install and implementation like that. Okay, so here are some last things. Do we have any questions come through? No? All right. Some basic reminders. Yes, tonight's training is being recorded. We talked about that earlier. If you need to go back, sorry again for the audio issues we were having at the very beginning, but if you need to rewatch any of tonight's training, you can go back and rewatch it about 48 hours after tonight's conclusion, and then you'll be able to go back and hear any part whatsoever. Again, if you have any final questions, make sure you get them in before we're done. And then, oh yeah.
Is it possible to use, I need to pull up the whole question here. Is it possible to use Ecobee sensors to control zones in a zoned HVAC system? What system would you recommend to build automation on in a house? Okay. And he's asking Alexa, Apple, Google Home. So actually, let's back up. We'll start with the
first
yeah,
question,
they're separate questions. I thought it might be a kind of an A-B thing. But
okay.
First off, is it possible to use Ecobee sensors to control zones in a zoned HVAC system?
So if you have a traditional zoned HVAC system, that means you need to have an actual thermostat to control each zone. So you're going to have hard wires running back to a zone board that is going to actually open and close those dampers. So you can't use an Ecobee sensor to be able to say open or close zone 2 or zone 3. Now, like with the sensors, you're going to be able to make routines based off of those, but that's going to be more smart home stuff. So if you're, say, your temperature in your kid's room reaches X, like if you have a baby and it gets too hot, you can have lights come on, or you can turn on fans, or you can do other things through smart home, but those sensors don't directly connect to the zone board to be able to turn those on or off. Okay.
One thing I want to talk about too, Tyler, to kind of piggyback off of that.
Sure.
I think we're moving into a world, obviously, where you don't need a thermostat on the wall. We see a lot of these smart thermostats like Ecobee, the Honeywell T10. You've got remote sensors.
Right.
So something I'm seeing more and more as an account executive here is a sort of a setup where maybe what you can do kind of as an alternative is you install all the thermostats in the utility room, and then the wireless sensor is going to go where the thermostat would have gone. And for a lot of homeowners, especially your tech savvy ones, this is going to give you a little bit more of like a sleek look. A lot of people, if you're using an Ecobee, you're probably not getting up to walk over to the stat anyway. You're probably doing it on an app. So again, something we're seeing more and more is people hiding these thermostats in the utility room and then just telling the thermostat to sense off the sensor only. And in that case, it's not exactly like what he's talking about here in the question, but it is a kind of a cool way to get the home to be more smart, more sleek, more sophisticated. You're hiding away those thermostats and utilities and just kind of getting everything to be as smooth as it can. So, just to jump on that a little bit.
Great.
That's a common thing.
And the next part of that question?
So then part 2 here is kind of, he's just asking for a general recommendation. What system would you recommend, what do we recommend to build the automation on? Do we like Alexa, Apple HomeKit, Google Home? In terms of usability, reliability, what kind of connectable equipment is out there as far as your options go? What do you think is the best to go with at the moment?
Who was that again? That was...
this is Adar from Airgood.
That is a loaded question, my friend. So, where I would start with that is, A, do they already have anything in their home? So if you've gone into a homeowner's home and they already have some sort of system in place, whether it be Google Home or Alexa or Apple HomeKit or something like that, I would recommend sticking with whatever ecosystem they have and just keep adding products to it. If you have the ability to walk in and it's a clean slate, there's no smart thermostat, there's no voice assistance, nothing in the home. Oh man, again, this is getting into personal preference and potentially politics and all that type of stuff. But if I were to start again from the beginning, I'd probably go down the road of Amazon and their Ring products. So Amazon recently purchased Ring, and they are dumping a ton of money into it. So that means that they're just going to be growing and growing and growing and doing a lot more offerings, and they're actually opening up to a lot of third-party users and adding their technology into those products. So they're going the opposite direction of Google. Google is trying to huddle closer and lock things down, whereas Amazon and Alexa are opening things up and they're adding other things. So Ecobee is a great example. They recently partnered with Ecobee to add Amazon Alexa to the new 4 and 5th generation of that stat. I know they've partnered with Sonos, and Sonos added the Amazon Alexa voice controls to their products, and you're just seeing it more and more where a lot of these other parties are all kind of integrating with each other, and so they're all kind of running off the same platform where, down the road, I can easily see Amazon Alexa being like the main central spot for a lot of smart homes. And so again, it's because they're trying to work with everybody that I see them as kind of like the leader currently right now. And I'd be interested to see where Google goes. I mean, I will be the first one to admit that Google and Nest make amazing products. This camera, I have one in my house, and it is stupid. It is so good, sharp, the quality is amazing. You pay a little bit more of a premium for that. So you're going to get amazing products going the Nest route, but I like where Alexa is going a little bit more, Amazon's going a little bit more with that. Now, you might be of the mind that you don't want to have that big of an open connection, and Honeywell is also a really good option as well. We haven't talked about them nearly as much tonight, but they are, with Resideo, they're also moving into that space, the connected home, pretty heavily. So I'll be interested to see where they grow within the next 2 to 3 years as well. Great question.
So we got one more here.
One more? All
and
right.
This is kind of part C, but again, they're all disconnected, and this one gets kind of really in depth.
Ooh, all right.
Do you know if there's any thermostat that has auxiliary dry contacts that let HVAC equipment other than the furnace or AC run according to a schedule? Example given, I would like HRV to run all the time except during unoccupied periods and except electrical peak hours.
That is an amazing question that I am probably not the actual best person to answer, because that is going a little bit more into the technical side of HVAC. My expertise is more on smart homes, but what I highly recommend was that, ADAR again, ADAR?
Yeah, it's ADAR, yep.
Call our guys during the day.
He doesn't even need to call. Adar, I'm taking notes on this.
Okay.
And we'll follow up. We'll reach out to you in the morning, and we'll get this answered for you. And if there is such a thermostat, we will recommend it, and if we can, supply it for you as well. So we'll get that answered first thing in the morning, and like I said, we'll reach out to you on that.
Great, yeah. And if you have any technical questions, whether when related to HVAC, we have an amazing engineering staff that are here from 7 in the morning Eastern Time to 6 in the night Eastern Time, that are there just for you, that can answer all these type of questions that you guys might have. So, Nick, anything else? And yeah, speaking of phone number, if you see here, yeah, the phone number there, and there's our website if you want to be able to see what smart home products we're currently carrying. We're always adding new things every week, but you can go to jacksonsystems.com and you'll be able to look, as long as you have a login and password as a contractor. If you don't have that, you can just contact us. We'll be able to get you an account set up, and then you'll be able to see your particular pricing for all those products. If you have any other questions, you can email us at training@jacksonsystems.com, or give our team, like Nicholas and all of our other amazing engineers, a call at 888-652-9663. Nick, was there anything else you wanted to say, bud?
I don't think there's any more questions or anything. Just wanted to, again, thank everybody for joining us. Excuse me, Tyler.
Yep.
It was great to have everybody. Thank you for all the participation. I know we've got some questions to answer still, and if anything comes up once we finish up, or anybody watches a recording and we get any more questions, don't hesitate to reach out. Tyler's got all the phone numbers, and you can reach us all directly, email, phone, whatever. So, yeah, thank you so much, Tyler. That was extremely informative. I learned a lot. And so I'm going to be excited to get some smart home stuff in my home, and I feel a lot more ready to get it installed now. So hopefully you guys do too. Thank you, and have a great night.
Bye, guys.